I hope you all enjoyed watching me restore this 1927 sewing machine last time, and I thought that this time I would see if I could actually sew a garment using this antique machine. I was looking for a pattern that had hopefully minimal seams because I wasn't exactly sure how much sewing this sewing machine could still do, and I was also looking for something from the 1920s since this is a 1927 sewing machine. I ended up finding this really beautiful negligee or robe pattern that seemed like it didn't have a lot of pieces of construction to it, and it seemed like it was from the right era. So I hope you all enjoy watching me sew a 1920s robe using a 1920s sewing machine. I've decided to use this beautifully patterned cotton sateen for the robe with a black cotton sateen as the border on the neck edge and the sleeves. This cotton sateen is quite heavy, so it doesn't exactly flow as nicely as real silk would, but it is a bit friendlier on the budget. After constructing the pattern pieces from the printed out PDF version, I then took the time to cut out all of the required pieces for this robe. Now that I finished cutting out all of the pattern pieces, it was time to figure out how to thread this sewing machine. I feel really lucky that I had the original instructions available because it had really detailed diagrams and written instructions on how to do all of that, as well as wind the bobbin. I think one of my favorite parts of this machine is the bobbin winder actually, because you snap the bobbin winder towards the driving wheel in order to wind up your bobbin, and it will automatically snap back from the wheel once it's completely full, something my modern machine doesn't even do. Now that the bobbin is wound, it's time to put it in the bobbin case and then place that case back into the bottom of the machine. These instructions were a little bit harder for me to follow, but I think I eventually figured it out. After the bobbin portion of the machine was done, it was time to actually thread the needle. There are quite a few diagrams in the instruction manual, which was really helpful for me to understand because the words were sometimes a little bit opaque, at least to me. Now that my machine is hopefully threaded correctly, I decided to first test out some stitches on a piece of muslin cloth. I'm very glad that I did this instead of trying it out on my nice cloth, because the first thing that happened, of course, is that my bottom bobbin fell out because I didn't properly secure it. So, of course, my first few stitch attempts were an absolute mess. However, I did take some time to practice altering the stitch tension as well as the stitch length until it felt pretty good and like I had a bit better of a handle on how this machine actually runs really beautifully. I do have to say I'm pretty proud of where I started with the stitching on this machine to where I ended with the stitching on this machine. It's not perfect, but I think that it is much improved from the absolute mess where the bobbin fell out the first time. Now that I felt a little bit more confident that I was starting to understand how this machine worked, I decided to get started on the robe. I hope you enjoy the next few minutes of some beautiful machine sewing sounds. originally got this machine, I was incredibly giddy that I had not only the original instruction manual, but so many of the original sewing machine feet, including this array of hemming feet. As I was done with all of the stitching on the robe except for the hems, I decided to give these a try to see if I could use them to properly hem the robe. I decided to do the hem in 2 steps, first with a smaller width hem and then fold it over one more time and then use a wider width hem foot so that I would have a double folded over hem. I'm not exactly sure what that's called, but I wanted all of the raw edges tucked on the inside on the bottom of the robe. I feel like there's definitely a trick to using these hemming feet properly, and the fact that my cotton sateen was a little bit stretchy was definitely working against me, but overall I'm pretty happy with how quick of a hemming job I had with using these sewing feet. Now that I'm done completely hemming my robe, it is time to finally try it on. One of the other beautiful antiques that I found at the store is also a 1920s teacup, so I thought it would be perfect to enjoy my morning cup of coffee wearing this beautiful robe. I'm kind of in a 1920s theme right now, can you tell? And there you have it, my finished 1920s robe. I do definitely think that the cotton sateen is far more structured than silk would have been, but I really love this robe. I love the length, I love how it looks, and I really love the print on the fabric itself. I can't believe I was actually able to use an antique or near antique sewing machine to sew an entire garment. It went from needing some desperate restoration to kind of smoking a little bit when I tried to run it the first time, to actually being able to smoothly sew this beautiful garment. Thank you all again so much for watching. I really enjoyed using an antique sewing machine to sew an entire garment. I think I'm going to be staying in the 1920s for a while, and if you want to watch me knit and crochet some 20s items, please feel free to subscribe. I also have a link to some of my other accounts and patterns down in the description box below, and I hope that I'll see you next time.